Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. Each episode is featuring candid conversations with world-class sales professionals. They are trailblazers, thought leaders, and top producers who are elevating the sales profession, shining bright, and inspiring others to do the same. So if you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking your full potential in sales, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And let's dive in with today's guest. Hey everyone, Paul Fuller here. And today, man, we've got a treat. We have got the one and only Mark Hunter, the sales hunter. He's in the house. He's ready to roll. And before we even hit record, we're already solving world peace, decoding the secrets of sales leaderships, and everything else. Don't worry, we save the good stuff for you. And so in this episode, we dive deep into the real meaning of accountability, what great sales leaders actually do, and why authentic relationships are still the most powerful driver of sales success. So let's get into this with Mark Hunter. Mr. Mark Hunter, welcome to the program. Great to have you, man.
It is great to be with you. I tell you what, the green room conversation was great. Should we let the audience in on that? Nah, it's okay.
No. There are some things that have to remain private. I mean, we just solved world peace, secrets to sales success, all that stuff, but we can't let it out all at once.
So the show's over, right?
Well, no, we'll get into some tiny little things. I mean, some minuscule, unimportant things like what the heck is going on in sales today? What are the greatest opportunities that sales managers have there to impact their teams? Just stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. Let's
go. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, let's go.
Well, yeah, and tell me a little bit, Mark, about what you've been up to these days, because you are all over, and I see your name everywhere. You have a great podcast with Meredith. You're just making things happen. You're doing a lot of speaking. What is happening in the world of Mark Hunter?
We are having fun because you're right. The phone is ringing, emails are coming in, and I'm traveling all over the world. And it's fun being able to influence and impact people. But here's what I'm finding. There is a real outpouring of people challenged to find accountability. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm hearing this from VPs of sales. I'm hearing this from CROs and everything. How do I hold my people accountable? How do I create a culture of accountability? Because the marketplace has become so noisy. AI has become so prevalent. And everybody's looking for an ROI in AI, which just hasn't really come yet. So that ship is somewhere out there. But I mean, that will come. But all along the way, it's accountable. How can people be held accountable? And more importantly, how do people hold themselves accountable? That is the underlying thing I am hearing from everyone out there.
Well, and so I didn't know you were going there. I'm super excited you went there because I hear the same things, and I hear that word being at one end of the spectrum being so abused in terms of micromanagement and KPIs, and the other end of the spectrum, I hear it as the panacea. So when you say that, what are we holding people accountable to?
Well, that's the challenge, because down to street level, people are taking accountability as being micromanaged, that they want to be challenged on every individual little thing, measured on this, 10,000 metrics being measured, of which none of them really mean a thing. Accountability at the C-suite level is accountability in terms of strategic thinking, in terms of tactical application of what are the things that have got to get done in order to move the ball forward. And that is a completely different conversation, because what I'm finding is that people are interpreting accountability as, well, as long as I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, I'm accountable. No, that's not. That's being busy. But is that being productive? And what I'm sensing and what I'm seeing from CROs and VPs of sales and others is this winnowing down of what's being measured. Because again, all the data is out there. I mean, guys and gals, we're long past having to be challenged to measure data, having to challenge to be measured something. We can get that. What we need to do is we need to narrow it down to say, what is that one or two metrics that really have to be focused on? each and every day. That's what's going to move the ball forward. Steve Jobs has a great line. He says, the challenge is we're all racing to try to connect the dots going forward. That's wrong. You connect the dots behind you. You don't know what dots are going to connect behind you until you put enough dots out there forward. And the further up you go in an organization, this is the challenge I see. They become challenged to, I got to make the quarter's numbers. I got to deliver this. I got to do that X, X, X. And that's the wrong thinking completely. Because again, the further up in the organization you go, the more strategic my thinking needs to be, the more strategic my whole day needs to be, which means I'm taking a step back. I'll give you an example. I was having a call this morning with a startup company out of Canada, a couple of great individuals, incredibly brilliant, gifted. This company is going to just rocket ship, and that's about as far as I can go in terms of saying what it is that they do. But what I find is this, that these two individuals are immersed so much in the business. And that's what I told them. I said, our whole challenge right now is to get you guys out of the day-to-day business. Because what you're doing is neither scalable nor sustainable. Because again, what you're doing is you're tactically executing. That's not what you should be doing. So accountability takes on different levels depending on where you are in the organization. And this is why when I say accountability is the challenge, you have to define accountability as measured to your position in the workplace. And who are you accountable to? This is the other challenge. I find very rarely and I'll use a CRO, is a CRO really held accountable to anyone other than the CEO. That's it. And that's wrong, because the CRO needs to be held accountable to the CMO, which probably reports to them. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. They need to be accountable to the CSO, Chief Sales Officer, whether or not they report to them or not. In other words, accountability isn't just vertical, it's also horizontal. And again, what this does is this strengthens an organization. Anyway, I apologize. I could walk out on this, but I'm hearing it more and more lately.
No, and I am too, which is, and it's up and down organizations, and it is up and down and across organization. And the more the one thing that I'm hearing is it's accountability to actions, not to results. And that is strategic actions that I'm going to take at the top. Like, I need to do these things. If we are not holding our prepped ongoing quarterly strategic reviews and being accountable to each other on those, we're failing at a strategic level. If your coach is not coaching each individual one-on-one for an hour a week, they are failing at the coaching level. So the accountability and the metrics that I'm hearing come out more and more these days are more towards not just the results, not just the number of calls you had, the meetings you had, the opportunities you found. It is more around, are we doing the things and committing the things to each other and completing those actions, or are we letting them slide? And it is a trend. You can listen to my podcast for the last 6 months. And I don't know why. Do you have a sense of why this is coming about? Does it have something to do with did we lose accountability as businesses over the pandemic, or why is resurfacing now?
No, I don't think we ever had accountability. I don't think we ever had it. We operated in a very siloed mentality. And what's happened now is those silos have been broken. Everything is a matrix. Which means in order for me to get my job done, you in this other department have to do this. You in this other department have to do Y, da, 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 da. And this means we all have to be accountable to one another, see? And that's different because organizations are being flattened more so than ever. And we'll take that salesperson out in the field. That salesperson out in the field is now having to interact with more departments internally than they've ever interacted with before. Because again, they may or may not have the direct one-on-one support that they used to have. No, they don't. They can't always pick up the phone and call this certain person. No. So what do? They have to be able to create relationships. Here's what I've found about accountability. Accountability is a direct input to relationships. If you want to have strong relationships, you need to be defined as a person who is willing to be held accountable. And when you're a person who is willing to be held accountable, that means you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And you're also going to help lift up those around you, just as those around you are helping to lift you up. What you'll find is you're going to find relationships strengthen. The natural outcome of that is productivity goes up dramatically. Because when you're working for somebody, when you're working with somebody who you enjoy, it's amazing how much more you will do. I wrote about this, and I didn't realize I was writing about it when I wrote my book, A Mind for Sales. I talk about a particular boss, and he was an individual who practiced accountability in every sense of the imagination. I didn't realize it at the time. And what happened was the level of output from our department, the level of results we cranked was unbelievable, because we would all walk through a wall for one another. If somebody had an issue, boom, people rallied around. There was never a gap seen externally. There were gaps internally, but we were always covering because we were practicing a level of accountability to one another.
Well, I live in Columbus. We just talked about that in the green room, but I live in Columbus, and the Ohio State Buckeyes just won the national championship. So I know, sorry for those of you that are around the world and you don't understand the importance of that in college football. But it's huge, right? And in Columbus, one of the things that so struck me about that team, though, and in their interviews and everything, is exactly what you were saying, was they weren't doing it for their fans. They weren't doing it for glory. They weren't doing it for outside. They were doing it for the person next to them that they truly loved and had a relationship with. And they were doing what they say they were going to do, right? And they apologized. They even got to a point where they started talking about, like, apologizing for if I missed a block or if I didn't do something right, then that was on me, that I need to go back and tell somebody that I missed. I'm accountable for my actions. And we lose that in teams that sometimes, I think, we are all in teams in sales, and we lose that in teams in sales a lot of times, and teams and organizations. We just, why is that? Why can a game be so much fun and we go and we stand next to the person next to us and we'll die with our brother, right? But when we get to sales teams or work, that relationship is so different.
I think it happens because of two things. One is compensation. Compensation is so internally, singularly focused. It's what you did. It's what you're going to be compensated on. So that is the result. Two, we have always been in a society of, I'm going to achieve this. There's only one position up above that 6 of us could be promoted into. I'm going to be the one that's going to be promoted in that position. So I will step on other people. So there was this natural attrition, this natural dog eat dog. Maybe it goes back to the Jack Welch style of management. Everybody was ranked. And as a result, there was no place for this team culture. Ooh, here's the word. Because really, when I see organizations that have, or individuals that have, a high degree of accountability to one another, they work in an organization that has a high level of culture, quality culture. I mean, everybody's got culture. It's just whether or not it's good culture. But they have a high performing culture. So, I mean, culture and accountability go hand in hand. And there's something else that you touched on. You said the players on the team, if they missed a tackle, they apologize. What is that all about? It's because they're being authentic. They're being authentic to one another. This is where it really begins to translate down to the customer level. Because what you see happening when you're creating authentic relationships, that means a salesperson out on the street, if there's a problem, they don't sit there and throw, a customer service under the bus. They just take care of it. And that's seen by the customer. That is absolutely seen. See, so what happens is culture and accountability are created hand in hand. But the byproduct is authentic relationships. And what's the result of authentic relationships? A level of trust with the customer. And when there's a high, now what you have is you have this circle. It just, the higher the degree of trust, the more accountability, the more authenticity. And what happens is you get a flywheel that just begins picking up more and more speed. This is why some organizations, this is why the Ohio State Buckeyes, they came out of their game with the team up north. Well, for the others that don't know your geography, in Michigan, which is their arch rival, and they lost. Ryan Day, the coach, was like, should he be fired? Guy's got an incredible track record, but he can't beat the team up north. And it was amazing to watch the team rally around each other and rally around him. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, they won the national championship. Very impressive. And you think about it, that was culture, that was accountability, that was authentic relationships that created a deep level of trust. The result, a national championship. Pretty powerful.
That absolutely. So what do we do? And this is a broad question, Mark, and you can go answer however you want, but it's a very broad question. What do we do to create that culture? What is step one?
Yeah, it doesn't start with other people. It starts with you. Starts with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great answer.
He's throwing his arms up in the air. He's saying,
"Yes, I am." We just talked about getting this as a video on Spotify.
Because it absolutely is. Because how can you ask other people to be authentic unless you are? How can you ask other people to be accountable unless you are? How can you? It starts with you. And again, if you look at this, and again, I don't know Coach Ryan Day personally, but I'm sure he personifies that. This boss that I wrote about in my book, A Mind for Sales, John Canavan, he personified these on a 10x level. It just dripped. And what did it do? It rubbed off on other people. Jim Rohn years ago said the line, "We become the sum of the 5 people we associate with the most." It is amazing. When you yourself begin to demonstrate accountability, what does this mean? That means that you're going to tell somebody you're going to do something and you're going to do it. And if you don't do it on that given time, you pick up the phone, you call them and say, "Hey, you know what? I dropped the ball. I apologize. I didn't get it done." Whatever it might be, but that's the first level of accountability. Accountability is also holding people to a higher level of integrity in terms of language used. Are they throwing other people under the bus? Are they saying things that just, just not copacetic? And are you calling them out on it? Are they calling you out on it if you are demonstrating that? And it's very interesting, but I've sat in boardrooms where the CEO is definitely or the chairman of the board is definitely a holier than thou person, and you can't touch them. And they are the most unauthentic person in the world. And in every one of those situations, I've seen that board, that group eventually collapse. Conversely, I've been in boardrooms where the CEO, the chairman of the board, whatever, extremely accountable, willing to be called out. And there's a level of support. And again, when the pressure is on, that's when those organizations very, very much step up. Because see, the value of accountability, the value of authentic relationships isn't measured when times are good. Anybody can perform when times are good. It's when times are tough. That's when the results, that's when the fruit really begins to show. And is it rotten inside or is it a good apple?
Yeah, I think I know that's so true. And your Mind for Sales book, and you talk about that, and you talk about the habits and the accountability and all that I loved it. I thought it's a great read. I would highly recommend it to anybody. But tell me a little bit more about this boss that go into in that, and tell me kind of what he modeled to you and how you've now taken that and started to share it.
Yeah. Okay. What he modeled was he demonstrated, first of all, he had a number to hit. He had a number to hit every quarter. And believe me, he was under pressure from customers. But he never forgot it was his team. And he was always committed to each member of his team, as long as they were performing. Now, if they weren't performing, believe me, he could be stink pretty quickly. But if you were performing, he had your back. He absolutely cared about you. And his number one goal was to help develop you into a stronger individual yourself. And I saw him time and time again during very pressure situations where he could have made the decision himself. And yet he would defer, Mark, what do you think we should do here? You know, it's interesting. I didn't realize it, but he was practicing what Jeffrey Bezos says. He says, when I go into a meeting, I never want to be the first one to speak. Because if I speak, everyone else mirrors what I have to say. I want to be the last one to speak. It's interesting. John did the same thing. I never realized that. But he would get others to speak. He'd get others to share. And what is he doing? He's lifting people up. Because again, everything he always did was, how can I make my people be seen and positioned in a better light? Now, he wasn't covering up. He wasn't sugarcoating. No, believe me. Man, he jumped me for more than a few things. But I always knew that he had me because he knew what was right for me. He knew how to develop me. And that in turn had me wanting to help him in every possible manner. So what he did was he was focused on the individuals. And we, the individuals, were focused on the business. And there was many times when the problem never got to John, because we took care of it. But we'd go in and we'd tell him. And there were other times that, we screwed up. But we never hesitated to go in, because we knew if we walked into John's office and we screwed up, he was going to jump us. He was not going to jump us. He's going to say, it's okay. Just relax. Let's figure out the solution. And that's the mark. You see, because you think about that. Was he coaching? Yeah, he was coaching without a doubt. An effective coach is effective because they create an authentic relationship and they're willing to be held accountable. And that's the mark. That's the mark of a real leader. Yeah. And what does that do? That has the organization then treating their customers in the same light. You know, I always say, you know, it's funny. I've had situations. I hate to say it, where I've had sales leaders say, "Man, our sales team really stinks. They're lousy. They're pathetic." And I really want to go, you know why they're lousy? Because you're lousy.
I have to tell a story here. Have to, because it was a fascinating. This was my first real black and white example of that. And I was selling for a company that I was working with, that we were selling sales consulting and training and really sales transformation. And I made a great connection. I thought a great connection online with an individual that was all over his front page was my business is dedicated to the Lord and all this stuff. And I don't want to call him out or call him out as a hypocrite, but there was a really interesting exchange that I had with him, and that I got coached, and the guy I was working with coached me to call him out on it, which was exactly that. Like when I got into the discussion with him relative to his sales team and how they're performing, they suck. They're a bunch of losers. And so I was coached to ask the question, so how does that reflect you? And I have never seen somebody's jaw drop quicker, faster. And, and he had every opportunity to get extremely defensive. And to his credit, he didn't. Like, it was one of those, oh my gosh. But, you can ask those questions that just floor somebody. But that was one that was just so amazing. And he actually thanked me after the conversation, that he wasn't being accountable to his team or himself or to his beliefs.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just lose that. In the pursuit of a number, or the pursuit of something else, or the pursuit of what somebody else has to be doing, we just lose that. So how do we drive that centering? How do you keep centered and help others keep centered on that, in terms of their mission is to, be accountable to themselves, be accountable to others, coach, serve, lead, love. How do we do that?
Yeah, two things. You have to realize that you can't do it all yourself. You cannot do it all yourself. I'm blessed. I have 4 people who support me. And it's kind of funny, but as we're sitting here, I'm watching emails come in from them. I'm seeing messages come in from them. My whole objective every day is to support them and help them do their job, period. Because again, if they can do their job, and many times they have a much better idea than I do. I mean, I threw out a problem this morning and because I was clueless. And sure enough, one of them came back with a solution. And I have a feeling that's what they've been able to solve here. Yeah. Which is outstanding. But what this comes back to is you have to play the long game and realize that your passion is with people. At the end of the day, we're tasked with leading people. We are tasked with leading people. And our job, I've said this for years, is to influence and impact people in a positive manner. Because if I can influence and impact you in a positive manner, I've probably earned the right, the privilege, honor, and respect to be able to come back and talk with you again. I've developed a relationship. If I have cut you down and just ripped you apart for no reason at all, there is a natural defensive barrier that pops up. Now, I'm not talking about participation trophies. I'm not talking about any of this sort of stuff. I'm talking about, hey, if somebody needs to be slammed, they need to be slammed. But there's a way to do it. There's a proper way to do it. And that's a whole separate episode. But what I'm saying here is that you have to look at it that there are times when you cannot, as a leader, cannot make the decision. You have to let your people make the decision. Let your people make the decision. Because at the end of the day, chances are 3 months from now, 2 months from now, it's going to be irrelevant what the answer to that decision was. It really is. Maybe in the moment you feel, oh, this is really important, but come on, think about it. How many times do we have challenges arise that we think, oh, wow, it's life-threatening. It's I got to get this done. And I got to get this done right. But then 2 weeks from now, it's totally irrelevant. See, save your ammo for the really big battles. I had a VP of HR for a Fortune 100 company, major defense contractor, share with me. And I've got to know him quite well. He made the comment, he said, Mark, I get 300 to 400 emails a day. My objective is to clear them as rapidly as possible because I'm going to be called on and expected to participate and make 3 decisions a day. I don't know what those 3 decisions will be, but I know over the course of the day, I'll be confronted by something from the CEO, board member, something that will call me to have to make a critical decision. That's where I focus my time. I don't worry about anything else. I got to clear everything else off my plate. Focus on the 3 big decisions that you don't know what they are, but they're going to arise.
That is great advice. Well, Mark, this episode has been wonderful, and I thank you so much for sharing your mind and your heart with us. It's been awesome. How do people find you if they want to chat with you more, if they are looking for a keynote speaker, any of the above?
Well, I tell you what, you just go out to Google or any AI thing, and I'm Mark Hunter. I'm known as the Sales Hunter. Of course, I'm all over LinkedIn, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. Got several books out there, but all you have to do is Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and I'll pop up. I'll be there. And you're right. I do a tremendous amount of keynote speaking. I do a lot of advising work to C-suite. And I just love what I do because I get to influence and impact people. Why? Because I want to help them see and achieve what they didn't think was possible.
Let's go. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for bringing it today. We appreciate it. Everybody out there, please make sure like, subscribe, and share this video. And make sure you follow Mark on all the platforms online where he is. You'll find him Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere you can follow. And he's got a great collection of books. I highly, highly recommend those. Anyways, we will sign off for today. Keep shining bright. Keep elevating the sales profession and have an amazing, amazing day. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Art and Science of Complex Sales. I hope today's conversation provided you with valuable insights and practical ideas to help you and your team elevate the profession and succeed in today's complex world. This podcast is brought to you by Membrane.com. Membrane is the B2B growth platform for CEOs, sales leaders, and sales executives who are committed to sustainable growth and change. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, like, subscribe, share it with your network. Your support really helps us bring more valuable insights from the best in the business straight to you. Also, check us out at membrane.com. We're more than a technology. Membrane equips your teams with the expert coaches and trainers, amazing sales methodologies, process, people, and tools to continually improve and coach results. More than a CRM. It's a network, and it's designed to help your team execute with confidence, smash goals, and overall up your sales game. So we'll see you next time for another episode of the Art and Science of Complex Sales. And until then, as always, keep shining bright.